In terms of the infrastructure of actually doing the study, well, one of the issues was recruiting volunteers, and um, I had kept a lot of my friends apprised of the progress of my study over of the permit gathering process over the years. And, there's a lot of people in New Mexico, Albuquerque, and Santa Fe who've experienced with psychedelic drugs. And, with my interests, I made friends with a number of them. And they were all lined up to be the first volunteers. So we were able to recruit the volunteers rather quickly. Um, we screened people very carefully. We interviewed them with a structured psychiatric interview to make certain they didn't have any ongoing psychiatric disorders. We didn't want depressed people or alcoholics or psychotic people. And we screened them in the clinic, in the research center clinic, to make certain that their blood pressure was fine, their blood counts, their heart rate, their heart rhythm were fine. Um, and then we began giving people a couple of non-blind DMT doses, which means both we and they knew what dose of DMT they were getting. We started off giving everybody a low dose of DMT just to make certain they didn't have any peculiar response, or they may hate it, or they may have had some abnormal blood pressure effect of a low dose of DMT. And it just would give us all the opportunity to see how that person handled being in the hospital bed, in the research unit, being given intravenous DMT. We we started giving the DMT to one person intramuscularly. That's how all of the previous studies were done, other than just one study had given it IV. But all the other studies had given it intramuscularly. And but on the street anyway, it's smoked. It's not injected generally. And when it's smoked, the effects began within 10 seconds, 15 seconds. And because my study was getting funded by the Drug Abuse Institute, I wanted to make the effect of our giving DMT as comparable to what the effect would be like when it was being abused in the field. So we gave one guy intramuscular DMT, and this person had smoked it actually in the past about a year before, so he was able to compare the onset of effects and the rush and the intensity of the experience of the intramuscular injection compared to his having smoked it previously. And he described it as much slower, really didn't work as well or as much as having smoked DMT in the past. And he just didn't think the intramuscular route was going to give the same kind of rapid onset that people find so interesting about the smoked DMT. So we then decided to give it intravenously. We started off with a smallish dose in two people. One was the guy that had received it intramuscularly initially, and the other person was a fellow who had smoked DMT and knew what the effects of smoked DMT were like. Yeah, so we did some trial and error. We gave a medium-low dose intravenously, and that seemed like it was on the right track as far as the rapidity of onset. Then we sort of jumped from one dose to a little too high dose the next time around, and we overdosed. But basically, we overdosed two people. Thankfully, there were no long-lasting effects. Their hearts and their blood pressure, they all were stable. But they just couldn't remember the effect.